The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, friends.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome in to another episode of Spiritual Philos-o-Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 35.
35. Wow.
What is the topic of 35?
This is what is a spiritual awakening?
What is a spiritual awakening? That's a good question.
I am excited about this one because I love this topic so much.
It's a good one.
Yes.
It's rather a good one. It's an awesome one.
It's the basis of most of this stuff. It really is. So, and we talk about it a lot. So here's a whole episode on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything from last week before we would go into this one?
Yeah. Last week was perception. Sorry. It was perception. And it was interesting because I got a lot of responses to it. And I've talked to a lot of people this week. And one of the things that I kept hearing that like everybody seems to say is that they feel stuck. They can't change their perception because they feel stuck in their situation. So I've kind of thought about this a little bit this week and thought, well, what can you do? Like how do you change that? How do you become unstuck? Because that's what a lot of people ask me. How do I get unstuck?
It's a good one.
Well, you have to do something to move your situation.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of people are just waiting for something to fall from the sky into their lap.
Yeah.
That doesn't work like that.
No.
The universe, it likes to see us work.
Yeah.
And take risks and do different things like that. And when you start making those kinds of movements forwards, whatever it is, if it's career or family or hobby, whatever, they like to see us working. And when we're working, they're throwing more good at us. So I actually have an example for this because this week was interesting for me. On Monday, I had a really, really deep shower meditation where I had this like epiphany all of a sudden of a whole bunch of different things. And I was like, I got to share this. You weren't here. You were walking Sabbath.
Right.
And I was like, I got to share this with somebody. Who am I going to share it with? You know who I'm going to share it with? Facebook. Like there was this little tap on the shoulder, like you need to do readings for your friends on Facebook. That for me was like a huge risk.
Yeah, scary.
It was very, very scary because you never know how people are going to respond. Like so far, my friends on Facebook have been really supportive. I do have a lot of friends that do the same kind of work that I do, but a lot of people that I grew up with and, family and that kind of thing. But it went really, really well.
Yeah, it was out. Totally amazing, the response.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was a risk. My point is that this situation is helping me to move forward. What happened on Monday, it is making me realize just how much confidence I have in myself now and that I can go out and do whatever I want to do as far as this is related. And so then I think, well, what's the next thing that I'm going to do? What's the next step I'm going to take? Right. And I know already that it said I'm supposed to do a medium circle. So it's like they want us to keep moving forward. And let me tell you what happens when you move forward is good starts coming your way. The good karma, the movement. Yeah. Your life just starts moving when you put that kind of effort into it.
Right.
It can be small. It can be big.
I think that we talk a lot about different topics, on this show. And you might hear us talk about manifestation or, maybe destiny and, awakenings and things like that. But you said at the beginning that they want us to work.
Yep.
Because the truth is when we go there, we're going to be helping from that side.
Right.
If we're not back here.
Right.
So it's always doing something. And the other point is when you do take that risk to kind of move forward, it then affects somebody else's life or somebody else's. You've now sent a vibration out, sort of like, think about it like a not tide pool, but a pond.
Like,
a little pond. And we each have a little pebbles and we're each throwing them out into this pond and watching the ripples and how the they run into each other.
Yeah.
We're sending out our own vibrations and they're affecting one another.
Yes.
So you can do that in a negative way too.
Absolutely.
Usually doesn't
can.
go very well. But you can also do it in this way where if you are taking those risks to try to unbudge yourself,
Yes.
you're then helping somebody else.
Exactly right.
They might be in that same situation, or maybe they're not, but they still benefit from
Yes.
whatever it is, the connection that you've made because of the unbudging.
Yeah, actually, my job with Shine is a very good example because I applied for that job months ago and I didn't hear back. I actually forgot about it. Well, so now I'm working for them, right? Long story short, that's the psychic texting company. And I was able to get Chelsea a job working for them as well. So now my risk of putting in an application and going through with that, because I didn't really want to go through it. I was like, this is going to be hard. No, it's not. I love it. And I'm so glad that I did. And like you said, now it's rippling out.
There was a ripple effect there.
Yeah. And so, I think I've helped a lot of people on there too. And helping them helps others. And
that's awesome.
So don't be afraid to take those risks because they really do. They can spread like wildfire.
Risk is hard and scary, but important.
Exactly. Yep. Without it, we're just stagnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's all I have about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are we ready for 35?
I'm very ready.
Okay. What is a spiritual awakening?
Yes. So there's a lot of pages on the internet about spiritual awakening and what the signs are, so to speak, and what makes a spiritual awakening happen. And some of this stuff is so above my head that it was fun putting this episode together because I was like, okay, I'm just going to make this on my level.
Yeah.
Which was
layman's
hard.
terms, please.
Yeah, exactly. I had to do a lot of research because I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's not like weird wording. It's just like big words all together. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
So I didn't really find like a set definition for spiritual awakening, but putting it together, this is just a little bit. A spiritual awakening is a newfound awareness of spirituality, of spiritual reality. Everyone's journey is different, so no two are alike. That's why there's really no set definition for what a spiritual awakening is. You and I went through this together. It started at the same time, pretty much. But our journeys have been very, very different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a lot, about how it is different for everybody and the different things that you might see. When I started putting this together, I was a little bit concerned, like, where do I start with this? How do I explain really what the basis of it is? And I heard my mom, and she said, tell me the 3 biggest things that have happened in your life that have just blindsided you, that have just completely changed you from maybe even from one second to the next. And I said, okay, 3 things. My mom dying, my divorce, and my spiritual awakening. Yeah. Those 3 things slapped me across the face so hard. And she said, what do those 3 things have in common? And I said, well, I guess I grieved during all of them. Because when I started thinking about it, it's different types of grief.
Yeah. Because
my mom dying was losing somebody that I'll never see again in that way. My divorce was losing everything that I knew, everything, and having to start over.
Right.
In more of like a physical way. Where the spiritual awakening was getting rid of everything I was taught.
Yeah.
It was fleshing out my system of junk. It was a high colonic of spiritual world, so to speak.
Yeah, had a little upper GI.
Yeah, and it was scary. Let me tell you, I honestly, when it started, I'll tell you, we've talked a little bit about this, but I learned that I was a medium because I started like practicing online and doing different things online. But really it all started one night that we started communicating with Danny's family on the other side. And that night it was like an explosion. It was like a big bang. I heard everything so clearly. Everything made sense. Like it was as close. I've never done LSD or anything like that, but from what I've heard, it was as close to that as
probably. Yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
Everything made sense. I all of a sudden knew what was wrong about religion for the most part and what was right. Not in the big areas, but the small things just made sense. Why we're here, what we're here to do, what we're here to not do. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's me, because I learned that I was a medium and I could hear those things.
Yeah.
But like for you, it didn't happen like that. It was different.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. I guess what it is to me, essentially, and I did do LSD when I was young, like, real young.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that sense of, I didn't hear, messages and things like that.
Yeah.
But there was this complete calm within me that I absolutely understood, or just felt like I understood why everything is the way that it is. I felt at one kind of with the world and the universe, and I kind of understood my being
Right.
for a moment. Yeah, I had some hysterical laughing and stuff like that too. Never had any bad experiences at all, but that was the main feeling that I walked away with.
Yeah.
I felt connection to the universe.
Yeah.
So with this, different because I wasn't taking a drug.
Yeah.
But this was the same feeling, minus the hysterical
Right.
laughing and all that.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a lot of emotion.
There was a lot of emotion.
More like crying,
Mm-hmm.
but not like a sobbing, you've lost something
Right.
kind of cry. There was this, like a humbling,
Yes.
where you're like, holy crap, like this is really going on
Yeah.
all around me every day, every moment.
And most people are completely oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first, I guess you come to the realization that this is real.
Right.
Then you throw other things like the signs and the synchronicities and things where that is pure evidence to me that they are communicating with us.
Yes.
In two worlds or dimensions that differ so much, we're limited, so they use what they can.
Right.
And that's one way to get our attention.
Right.
So it's like the realization, you're sort of accepting it, and you're grieving all this other stuff.
Yeah, because you're losing a lot.
That I did experience, that I went and, because my parents didn't shove any kind of religion. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I really appreciate
Seriously.
that, by the way. Because I see a lot of people really rebel,
Yeah.
that have that shoved down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
I sought it on my own.
Right.
So that's different.
Right.
But I did have different experiences that I sort of put myself subject to maybe believe.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think if you're willing to change, it might say something about your intelligence if you're willing to change your point of view based on new evidence. And this,
Right.
to me, was absolutely
Yes.
new evidence.
Yeah, I didn't have to be convinced for the most part that there was another side.
Right.
Because I had that connection so much with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still at this point, like that night, there was absolutely never any denial of anything for me ever again. I get frustrated in this process, but I have never once said it doesn't exist.
Right.
Because I'm 100% sure it does exist. And that's what this spiritual awakening has done. One of the frustrating things I think about it for a lot of people is that we don't understand when it starts that it's not just going to be bam and done, like you're awake.
No, I've had different levels.
Yeah.
Where not only we're talking about with the sort of grieving or shedding some of your old ways of thinking or belief pattern or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I also came to a point where I realized a lot of that is true and is real.
Right.
So it was sort of like a homecoming of like, wow, this does all fit in this thing. but it's way different
Yeah.
than I was told.
Yes.
That's the part that's like, wow.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point that the spiritual awakening does seem to happen in stages. And because it is an individual experience, of course, these stages are different for everybody. But it says that the first stage is unhappiness and emptiness. And I do believe at that point in our lives, you and I were both very lost. I had just kind of lost my job with my grandmother. I had taken care of my grandma for like 7 years. And I lost that job when she died. And so it was like loss of income and then loss of my grandma and everything. And you also had moved on to another career, but we're really like, what am I supposed to do? Which way am I supposed to go? So we were both like really lost.
Yeah.
Didn't know where to go. And so this really set us on track. But we had to go through that uncomfortable stage that, like, why are we doing this? Why do we need this spiritual awakening is my point. What causes people to have that spiritual awakening triggered? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like for us, it was what we were kind of going through with careers and then, with my psychic abilities. But for other people, a lot of times it's grief. It's the loss of a loved one. Yep. Something like that. I've seen that a lot.
I think it can be like maybe ours might fit under this a little bit is like a surrender.
Yeah.
Where you're finally like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go.
Yes.
And I don't know what's out there.
Right.
And lo and behold, yeah.
Right.
It all came.
Well, here's a couple of things that I found about what typically makes a spiritual awakening start. Spiritual awakenings typically happen during or shortly after a sudden singular event or a series of traumatic events. Divorce, she also said paranormal experience or having extraterrestrial contact. That's a good one. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
It says spiritual awakenings can happen at any moment or period in your life. They can be spontaneous, but they can also be triggered by major life changes, illnesses, tragedies, traumas, anything like that. So, again, I do see a lot of people that are going through loss especially. And once they lose somebody and they're desperate for that connection.
Yeah.
So they start searching within themselves and then they start seeing the signs. And I know people that have become psychic this way. So there are a lot of reasons why these spiritual awakenings start. I also believe that you can have a spiritual awakening in a religious sense. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be anything in particular except that you feel that connection. Like when people say, I found Jesus, that's just like being awake. It's the same thing.
It's the same feeling.
It's the same feeling. It's just that connection, that, knowing that kind of thing.
Sure.
So it can happen at any point. And usually, like I said, at stage 1 is the unhappiness and emptiness. But then in stage 2, once you start coming out of that and start examining things, your perception shifts.
Yep.
Big time. Yeah, very big time. You start noticing little things that the universe does to get your attention. Because once you open your eyes, they're like, oh, good, we got their attention now. Now we can do things to get their attention even more.
Right.
And so you have to kind of change your perception on things. You kind of start to see the world in different ways. But like for us at the beginning, we were talking about this with Marina the other night. They put a lot of obstacles in front of us, like interactions with people, to kind of show us different perceptions and how to change the way that we think about certain things. We were being approached by people in very strange ways, and they wanted to have like deep conversations with us or take potato chips from us. It was really weird, but we knew, we were like, this is the universe. They're testing us. They're showing us patience.
Yeah.
They're changing our perception. So those types of things start to happen.
Yeah. I mean, tell you what, having a kid is showing you patience if you're patient with them.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think in this process, definitely learning to be more patient is very important.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about, like, I don't know, let's think of the Dalai Lama. I mean, we don't know him personally or anything, right? But when you see pictures of him or see him wherever, he's so just chill and relaxed, right?
Yeah.
And from the beginning, I thought, I can't do that. How am I supposed to be so chill like that?
My neck's gone.
I don't like going out in public if I don't have to. And now you want me to interact with people I don't know while I'm walking my 100-pound dog? You know, just weird things like that they're just trying to teach you a little bit of knock, knock, knock on you, you know?
It really is. You know, it's about, ultimately, it's about being kind.
It is, yeah.
You know, that when you get to after the spiritual awakening, that's your job, is to be kind.
Right. Well, let's stop at stage 2, and I want to read a little bit about what are signs that you are experiencing a spiritual awakening, because honestly, I didn't know what was happening to us when it was happening until I heard it. I heard intuitively, this is a spiritual awakening. And I went online and I looked it up and I was like, okay, this describes everything.
Yeah.
Because everything was changing in my mind and I was so emotional all the time. But okay, so let me tell you some of the things of signs that you might be experiencing. You feel as though life is false, like you've been lied to. Mm-hmm. Like everything that you knew doesn't matter anymore.
Or a lot of it.
Well, a lot of it, yeah. Not everything, but a lot of it.
Right.
A lot of it, yeah. Craving purpose and meaning. That's really something I never looked into, like, what's my purpose so much in life until the spiritual awakening.
Yeah. That's where big shift.
Yes. You start asking deep questions. You want to know more and more about the universe.
I was always like that.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, for sure.
So that's why, I don't know, I don't know why, but I have a million thoughts, but I'm not going to go there.
Right. Well, you do. I think you always have had that connection. You just kind of needed that little bit of proof. Because we had these like deep talks about the universe and stuff even before the spiritual awakening. But this has put us on a level that I say often, if there were people sitting here listening to us right now, they would be like, what is the matter with you two? Not because we're crazy or anything, but because if you haven't been through it, it's almost like, how do you explain it? People can't understand what you're talking about. It makes no sense.
Right.
They would be completely lost.
Right.
So, okay, another one is you start to see through the illusions of society. Mm-hmm. That one has been, interesting. You notice, and this kind of goes with this one, you notice how unhappy most people are. I noticed that a lot. Especially like we have this one deli that we like to go to eat, and I don't know why when we're there I always feel like there's this weird connection, like something's gonna happen spiritually. It happens there a lot. Like,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, like weird things, right? So I completely lost my train of thought.
It's not even. For me. It's not necessarily even so much of you notice people's unhappiness, but I start to sit in rooms and go, I wonder how many people are aware?
Yes. That was where I was going.
That this is all going on around us, just like
Yes.
the oxygen that's going in and out of our noses or mouths into our lungs. These things are as real around us as possible. We just can't see it.
That's exactly
We
right.
just can't see it. And it's they're not just spirits walking through walls. They're actually making things, helping things.
Oh, yes, very much.
Guiding us if we listen. And that was the big part of that was, for you, was that flood of all of a sudden, whoa, I can hear everything. Mm-hmm. For me, it didn't come like that.
Right.
I'm not a medium. I'm not a psychic. But
Right.
watching my wife, who I trust and love very much, was like going through this. I was like, whoa. So once that made me go, well, maybe this is real. Like,
Yeah.
that opened my mind.
Yeah.
Just the question of, is this real? Once that happened, then for me, those different things, the signs
Right.
and the synchronicities and the not coincidences and,
Right.
and all that, and a big shift in my perception about what was going on around me, my beliefs.
Yes.
took me in a full circle kind of around my beliefs, you know.
Yes.
And then my basically straight up being told what I need to do with my life.
Yes.
And stop screwing around and wasting time with other things that really, A, aren't going to make you happy.
Right.
Aren't going to keep you connected.
Right.
You know? So I'm very lucky that I have Samantha, because to be able to be around it, sometimes it's not as easy to be as grounded, you know, in it as
Even
somebody that's connected. So it's always good for me, you know, very good for me. It's like a constant reminder of like, oh yeah, they're here.
Especially now. It's like, that's one of the things that I thought from the beginning is, how do people not see this? Like, look around you and look at all the signs. Think about how your life starts to unravel and all of the things that are connected. And this had to happen for this to happen and that for this. Those coincidences, you start to go, how do people not see that these are not coincidences? This is the universe working for us. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's, you know, and I mean, on the flip side, what you were saying, I've been very lucky to have a husband that's supportive, because there's a lot of people that have gone through what I have, or a spiritual awakening, and their partner isn't supportive and they know absolutely nothing about what's going on. And that has to be so difficult. This has been hard because we've both been dealing with different stages of it at different times.
Right.
But for the most part, I can't imagine you not going through this experience with me. That would be very difficult.
Right.
One of the things you might remember that I started doing in this process was purging. I wanted everything gone. And it's funny because you always want to clean the garage and get rid of stuff, right? Mm. And you're like, always think I'm going to be resistant to it. And when this started, I'm like, get rid of it. Take it. Get it out of here. Like, I wanted my home to be more like us. Right. I wanted it to, I mean, it feels like a home, but like, I was really holding on to my mom and her possessions. And once I started going through this, I realized those are just possessions. Right. That doesn't mean anything. Right. So we started making it like taking I had like big Thomas Kincaid pictures, like big ones. And we started replacing it more with things that were more us, and these things that you just started changing into who is more us, and getting rid of stuff. I cleaned everything in this house. Like they say nesting. I think it was kind of like that. Mm-hmm. It just had to go. Right. And it's funny because I remember Chelsea going through that. One day she's like, I can't stop cleaning. What's going on? I'm like, oh, you're at the purge stage. This is fun. This is a fun stage. Yeah, that was an interesting one. So,
but we still haven't got to the garage. But that's a whole nother episode. That'll be next week's episode.
Yeah, that'll be titled
Purging
How My Husband Blames Me for the Garage That Isn't My Fault. I'm sure many women understand. Seriously, 3/4 of that is not my stuff. Okay, anyways, another one is you start showing deep empathy and compassion. And I think that's where a lot of these emotions come in, that like what you were talking about. You start feeling other people's feelings, and you can't like...
Well, that happened to me at the deli the other night, the place you just mentioned.
That's right, it did.
We were sitting in there, and I just kind of said to you, I wonder how many people aren't aware.
Yeah.
And I just started crying.
Yeah. And that happens sometimes. You get that, like, even if you see somebody that maybe before it wouldn't have affected you, you know, a homeless person or whatever, you start to feel that deep level of compassion for people and like, what is this person going through? And it's hard. Yeah. It's very hard because you start looking at people in society different, and you want to help them more. At least I do. And that's another one that was on here, is that you want to change the world. And that was specifically on the list. Make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And I always say, I want to make the world a better place. I want to change the world.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. You start becoming aware of your negative habits. This has been a huge part of the spiritual awakening for me. I think for both of us.
Yeah.
But for me, I've had to examine so many things about myself, old patterns and things that I took from childhood, things that I didn't even know why they happened, but
old
now I do.
relationships.
Yeah, everything. You you examine why all of this happened, and not just things like that, but like biting my nails. I bit my nails, I don't know, let's say I started when I was 7 and I'm 42. So what's that, 35 years?
Right.
I bit my nails all those years. And in this process, I said, nope, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just not. It's a bad habit and I don't want it.
Right.
And that's what starts to happen is once you start to connect to the universe and you start to see what's really important in life, you don't want those things. I can't physically, almost to a point, lie anymore.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for me. You had said to me, well, why do you need to lie?
Right.
And it's not needing to lie. What it is that when you tell somebody something like that, they don't believe you.
Right.
And that's like, okay, well, you're calling me a liar and I physically can't lie. It's those types of things.
Right.
It's a big,
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Especially in what you do.
Yes, exactly.
Because you're going to get that probably.
Yeah. If you didn't like myself, if the spiritual awakening didn't start because you connected to your psychic abilities, then you might start having heightened intuition. That's something that you've experienced for sure, especially over the last 6 months or so, I would say.
Yeah, I've had flashes or visions of stuff that have happened and things of people I don't even know.
Yeah.
Totally. So that's interesting.
It also says you start to love unconditionally. You don't want drama. You don't want conflict, no hatred. I can't handle any of it. Like when people comment with any kind of hatred on my Facebook post, I just completely ignore them. I can't. You don't want it because you realize it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My personality before was a lot more confrontational.
Yeah.
Especially in just the way if I was upset with something, I was much more direct.
Yeah. Reactionary.
And I'm direct, but now it's
you stop and you think.
You stop and think for a moment, try to step out of my shoes and then walk over to that person and put their shoes on for a second and think about it and go, all right, yeah, give it a little bit more thought and compassion.
Yes, exactly.
And that changes you, when you practice that frequently as much as you can.
Absolutely, for sure. The last one on this list, which I find very interesting because I just recently started saying this, is we start to say we are all one. And I didn't even know this was on a spiritual awakening list, but lately I've been saying that, and I truly, truly feel it, that you can hate, you can, whatever you want to do. But the fact is we are all one. We are all connected.
Yep.
And what's happening in this life right now is only this life. But these players in our lives, whoever it may be, your parents, your ex-spouses, your spouse now, your kids, whoever, this is your soul family. You're going to be with those people the whole time in your different lives.
But even globally, we are all brothers and sisters. We come from the same source. We come from the same place.
Absolutely, we do.
And we don't fight over there. We only fight when we come here.
Yes.
That's because that's what we need to learn.
That's
right. Is
right.
how not to fight in both places.
That is the biggest difference between here and there. When I do a lot of my readings, people will say, is somebody mad at me or whatever. They'll sometimes even bring up the word hate. And I'm like, that is a word that has been created by society. It is not something that is felt over there. They don't feel that. It's not, they don't have those kinds of feelings because they see that the cure for this planet is love. Yep. And so they try and pass that on to us. And I think that's probably one of the basis of a spiritual awakening is learning that it's just about love. Mm-hmm. In everything that you do, if you can learn to do everything that you do with love instead of hatred or negativity, then you become spiritually enlightened in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do. Very, very difficult. But it's a process.
Yeah.
This is a process. a couple of things too that I found about physical symptoms. I personally have experienced a lot of physical symptoms through this process, and I didn't realize that it was the spiritual awakening that was causing a lot of them. The first one it says is all your senses are heightened. I have chronic migraines, but now I take a preventative, and so I don't have chronic migraines anymore. But I'm still very, very sensitive to light, sound, smell, all of it. I thought that would go away, and it hasn't. Well, I really think that this is why because I see differently now. Yeah. I see colors differently. Mm-hmm. I see things. It does. I think for you too. Yeah.
Certain things definitely get enhanced.
Yeah. Colors, especially. Food intolerances. This one sucks. I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted. And now I can't. It's become like we eat completely preservative free. And I understand why this happens. I understand why the food intolerances start, because they want you to purge your body of the bad. Everything that we need pretty much comes from this earth. We don't need preservatives in our system. We don't need hair dye and all that kind of stuff. They want us to purge that. And it's difficult, but this is how they get us to do that.
Right.
I mean, they got my attention real quick. I went to Disneyland in the middle of summer and almost died.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I felt like I was going to die because I ate my way through there and drank nothing but regular soda and stayed in bed for a week and said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not eating any crap anymore. Yeah, they gave me a big wake-up call there. So I understand why they do it. We need, for our bodies to feel good, to be as grounded as we can. We need to have purity. We really do. Change in sleep patterns, weight change. This was one that got me at first. I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I losing weight? I mean, I was cutting out things like I used to get Starbucks every day. I cut that out. But there weren't any big changes. And I started getting scared. I'm like, why am I losing so much weight? And then I realized that it is a part of the spiritual awakening. Mm-hmm. I had my thyroid tested again. I had everything to see if, you were doing things consciously to change, which was helping that too. Yes. Slowly but surely.
Like
now
Starbucks, soda.
Yes. Well, now I have all those things that I've changed. So now it makes sense.
Right.
But when it first started, it didn't make any sense why I was losing the weight. I don't know. Again, how they can make something like that happen, but it's on the list. I'm taking it that's where it came from.
Yeah, I think it's definitely part of it.
Yeah. Let's see. They say that at first your immune system is decreased, that you'll notice that you get sick more. I don't think that happened to me, but what I have noticed on the flip side is that my immune system has gotten better. It's been
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely for you.
Well, yeah, for you too, because how many colds have we had? Like everyone that Marina's gotten, we've completely avoided it. Here's Sabbath sneezing while we're talking about cold. But yeah, that is on the list of things that happen is your immune system starts to get better. But I mean, you see too, like if you're doing these things, changing your eating habits and listening to the others, well, then it makes sense that your immune system's getting better.
Right.
So these are all benefits. They're not just symptoms. These are all like amazing changes that I've been able to make in my life, and you've made them too.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else can I tell you? One of the things that I pointed out in pretty much every article that I read was that inner work becomes the key to the spiritual awakening. And I tried to think, well, why do you have to examine yourself so much to have a spiritual awakening? And I can tell you that with each thing that I've conquered, with each piece of me that I've said, okay, this is why it happened. This is what I need to do to change it. I become a better person. I let go of the past and I become more connected to the universe. So with each one of these things that you're changing about yourself, you start to ground yourself more and open more. And it's very, very difficult. It's not easy at all. But it really is the most important part of
something
this.
that, as you were saying that, something I heard, and I got a little woo, so
Yeah.
I feel like I need to say it.
For
is
sure.
that it's the moment that you realize you're not a human.
Right.
That you're a soul in a body. that is the moment when I really realize, whoa.
Right. Exactly.
You've awoken.
Yeah.
You're now awake because you realize I'm a spirit in a body, and I've awoken.
Yes, exactly. So let's go back to the list we were talking about before about the different stages, because the next stage is you start finding answers and experiencing those breakthroughs, which, once you start to open your eyes and you start to see what's really going around, you can answer those questions and start with those breakthroughs. The hardest stage besides the beginning for me was stage 5, and that's the disillusionment and feeling lost. And I'm not really sure why this happens, but it hit me really hard when it did. And I know a lot of people that are going through it right now, that you do almost hit this point where you're like, this isn't real. Like, what am I doing? This is stupid.
Yeah.
You start to feel like you've been wasting your time. I don't know why it happens. Then you start to spiral downhill and the depression sets in, and it happens for a lot of people at that stage. It's intense. I don't really know
it's just the way your mind wants to interfere. Your
Right.
free will wants to interfere with the truth.
Yes, that you make a very good point. Because a lot of times I think that we think like, well, if I follow this path that I feel like I'm being pushed down, then I'm, that's not right. So you take your free will, and that just kind of, ruins it all. So you have to, that stage, you got to push through it when you get there, because it is one of those like almost quitting moments, but you can get through that stage.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know how to put it in words, but go ahead. Sorry.
So stage 6, which is where I consider myself to be right now, is the deep inner work stage. This is where you're really, like I said, you're picking yourself apart. You're trying to change all those things, fix those things, mend relationships that may be broken. Whatever it is, you're trying to fix it so that you can be spiritually one with the universe, so that when that guy cuts you off in traffic, you don't react.
Right.
When somebody doesn't return your text message, you don't react. When somebody says something negative, it doesn't matter, because I don't care, because this is my life. You know what I mean? You start to really, really experience those things.
They become less important.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes. There's things like, for example, I've always had an unhealthy relationship with money. And in this stage, actually through this whole process, that's been one of the biggest things that I've had to work on. And it got to the point where the other side actually put me on a budget. And every time that I would try and spend outside that budget, it would be, and I would hear it, and I just couldn't do it. And I had to learn these lessons. I had to learn how to spend money in a responsible way.
Right.
And how to appreciate things that I have, because I grew up with money and was not taught how to respect money or how to respect things.
Right.
Things were replaceable. They were not a big deal, so you don't have to take care of them. They've taught me in this process that that's a load of crap. You start to really see these things, and like with the budget and everything for me, I'm now at a point where those restrictions have been somewhat lifted, and I can go out and spend a little bit more money, and I don't. It's changed.
You've done good.
It's really has changed me. But the biggest thing in it, I think, when it comes to this inner work, is that you have to listen to that voice. And it's very hard. It's like being on a diet. You have to have that willpower. When that little voice tells you not to do something, you have to not do it.
Right.
Cutting out my Starbucks was so hard. But it was really one of the best things I did, because it eliminated a lot of my stomach issues. The money part of it is very expensive, but every time that I would get to that drive-through, I would hear, "Don't do it. It's not worth it."
Right.
And that was pretty much with everything. And so it's really taught me. They've really, really taught me how to be more responsible.
Well, you're listening more.
Listening. Well, and I think that that's why intuition starts to increase too, because then you can start to listen more. I mean, we all have it. We all have that conscience. It's that little tap on the shoulder. So maybe when you're more connected, you just hear it more.
Yeah, for sure.
And like other people,
They might
too.
feel like little epiphanies, like, oh.
Oh, I love those little epiphanies.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
I love those ones.
That's, it's funny, because, and I'll share that with you, with the listeners, based on what you were saying earlier about things that you were shown the first night. Right around that time, the music was sort of starting to get good and for us, and I was kind of asking her, what she saw, what Samantha saw for us.
For Gypsy Brown.
Yeah, for Gypsy Brown, for the music. And she was shown a carousel. And she's like, I keep seeing a carousel, but it's made out of wood. So I don't know. Somehow I'm like, well, maybe my interpretation was maybe it's a record, like a record goes round and around. But she had specifically drawn this carousel, and it was wood.
We were talking to
She
Rob.
said it was wood. And we were talking to Rob.
Right, who's a drummer friend who's no longer with us.
Exactly. A friend of mine that I play with on the other side now. And so this is when I come to the realization he's involved in this.
Yes.
So he led me through my own intuition to Milo. And because he knew I wanted the best I could possibly have because he wasn't here anymore.
Milo's the new drummer.
And Milo's the new drummer. So we did have an existing bass player and it wasn't working out. And so we got this guy, Rich. And I was thinking about in my brain pan, like who would come along? Who I know, who do I know that plays bass, And I'm asking Milo, do you know anybody? And everybody, who knows somebody? So there was a couple people that got brought up, and then at the very last minute, I said to myself, or the thought popped into my head, what about Rich? Because I've known him. He's been around this area for a long time, and he's a good player. Why didn't he pop into my head earlier?
Right.
So long and short of it, we talk to him. He learns the songs, comes in, does wonderful. And we're like, boom, you got the job. So about a week ago, Samantha comes out of the shower and she's like, I just had this total realization about that night that the wooden carousel wasn't I was seeing as a carousel, but it was a part of a circus, and it was a wooden circus, and that was the band that Rich used to be in when we were all playing in this area. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
So like that was the missing piece, where I don't know why they didn't share Milo first. But that was something he sort of led me off on my own to figure out. Right. But he threw that out at the beginning.
Right. Well, and what's interesting about it is that my abilities at that time, have been as strong. They're always strong. It's just how much confidence I have in myself. And so at that point, when you were like, I don't know what a carousel, what that would stand for, then my mind started going, okay, maybe it's not a carousel. And like you said, maybe it's a record. And I don't even remember where it went from there. But because you couldn't connect that it was the carousel, we couldn't connect that to anything. I was like, okay, maybe it's a record. I've learned now in this process never to do that.
Don't question
that.
Yeah.
There's a reason why. And if you dig deeper into it, if you just let it come more, then you may actually, get it. But the reason that I didn't get it that night, that it was Rich from Wooden Circus, was because I wasn't listening to myself.
Right.
So that was like the basis of that.
Cool that they show that to you later, though.
That was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. And it took me a minute. I was like, why are you showing me that? Yeah. Yeah, that was the day of that was actually just a few days ago. That was the day of the epiphany of I should go on Facebook and...
Oh, I thought it was like a week ago.
No, I know. It feels like it. It's like some days just drag. Like that was only 2 days ago.
So I know that was totally went off the beaten path there, but it was important because,
right.
It was part of...
It was. It for a lot of reasons, no. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good story, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the last stage is expansion of joy and integration and expansion of joy. So basically, stage 7 is full enlightenment, where you're one with the universe, you feel that probably the Dalai Lama, this is his stage. I don't know that I will ever fully get to that stage because I am, I'm still human. I mean, not that the Dalai Lama is not, but that's him. He's a spiritual guide. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe.
You'll have moments,
Exactly.
and it won't require LSD. But, you know what I mean? You'll have moments. And, I still, like, when we drove into Yosemite, into the valley.
Yeah.
And I was just I was into tears. That is a moment.
It is.
That's where I feel like I understand it all.
Yes.
I'm a part of this. I'm supposed to not only take what I need but contribute back.
Right. Exactly.
And it's all a balance.
Yep.
There's this balance going on between the souls and, and our bodies and nature, and it all is connected, know?
I can tell you that we are almost 2 years into the spiritual awakening, maybe a little bit more than a year and a half or so. And it really has changed our lives. It has changed the way that we handle situations with each other.
Yeah, that's been a huge help.
Yes. We have basically had marriage counseling from the other side. We don't always listen, but they really have helped us a lot. They've helped us to deal with our daughter, who's 14, and that's a really, really hard stage, and she's going through a lot, and they help us with that. It really, so many things. I mean, you can look at my health, everything that's changed with that. It's just, once you open your eyes to the fact that it's not about anything but love and the earth, and that's it. Nature, we should point that out.
Peace and love, man.
Yeah, peace and love, exactly.
It really is. You realize I realize that I am not a human having a spiritual experience. It's that awakening of I am a spirit having a human experience. And my job is to convey the same thing I would convey on that side. And that is peace and love to everyone that I come in contact with.
Yes.
As best as I possibly can.
Absolutely.
And that is a challenge, folks.
Yeah, very much.
As humans, that's the test on this planet. And can you wake up to this test and realize that would change not only each one of us individually, but then it would globally change a consciousness that we could live just like John Lennon was talking about.
We absolutely could. But I think society thinks it's too difficult, that I'm just one person, I can't change. But let me tell you what, there's a whole community of us out there, a big community, that if we spread this to others, it could spread like wildfire. Right. It could spread faster than hate. Yep. And it would change everything. So that's what the spiritual awakening is. You realize that we have the power to change it. This isn't it. Right. This is just one small fraction. This life is one small fraction. And you know what? There's a lot of people that don't care about what's happening to our planet because they figure that they're not going to be here to see it. You're going to probably be here to see it because you're going to come back. You're going to reincarnate. Yep. So you're going to have to deal with it. So start taking care of our planet now. Yeah.
It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
I mean, we're going to F it up along the way. Yeah. But it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. So you have plenty of time to come back and work some of that karma off. So, again, number one rule is don't be an asshole. And
that's the key.
And be kind.
I'd like to tattoo that on my forehead, but I won't. Yeah. Don't be an asshole. Yeah. Or be kind would probably be better.
Sorry if anybody's kids heard that, but
yeah, that's not. You hear that on TV on regular channels now. Sometimes we don't watch a lot of TV, but when we do, sometimes I'm taken back. I'm like, whoa, they say that on TV now?
Yeah, I guess
some bombs. Yeah. So there we have it.
Cool.
Our Spiritual Awakening episode.
That one got me all pumped.
I know, but see, now you're going to be pumped the rest of the day.
I know. Pumped. I got to go pick up the kid from school.
Uh-huh. That's all right. I got to walk dogs. So we all have our things, you know? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we say goodbye, would you like to share any of your information really fast?
Sure. You can find everything you need to know on my website, Very easy. Samantha Jones, psychicmedium.com. My Facebook, my Instagram, my blog, blah, 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 blah.
1, 2, 1, 2. It was like the punch.
Right.
Nice. All right. Well, and me, djonesartcollection.com if you want to see that on the web, if you want to see it on Facebook or Instagram, at djonesartcollection. If you like music, rock and roll, gypsybrown.com, and also at gypsybrownmusic on Instagram. And that's it for me.
I'd like to point out that energy is contagious because my energy has pumped you, like you said. It does, and that's not my energy. That's them flowing through me. So that's the work of the universe. I just had to point that out.
That's true.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we thank you for tuning in for another rousing round with us.
Yeah.
And we hope you have a wonderful week.
And until next week,
We're out. Peace
peace and love.